You know them, you love them. CoolStuffInc.com is our sponsor. Go to mtg.mn/CSI to sign up for their mailing list and be entered to win prizes every month. CoolStuffInc.com. Cool stuff in stock. What do you think about Mirrodin Besieged? You know, the response, it seems like it's been fantastic. What are your perspectives on it?
So, I talk a lot about how I love Phyrexia, and obviously I do love Phyrexia, and Poison's a pet of mine, and it's fun watching a plan come to fruition. But what people also forget is, Mirrodin's also my baby. I made Mirrodin. I made the Mirrodins. I was involved in the world development of Mirrodin, one of the few sets where I did world development. And so I actually have this affinity for Mirrodins too. So it's sort of like, it's two of my favorites crammed together and doing a set. So how do you lose? It's like two things I love, chocolate and peanut butter in the same set.
Like MBS was my first development team. I was also involved in a little bit of the world building for Scars Block.
Right.
So it is sort of the same thing. Like, I love the Phyrexians. They're sort of my, I identify with them. I don't know what that says about me, but at the same time, like, Mirrodin's also an awesome, foe. You really want to root for them. So the conflict to me is very engaging. And in terms of a Magic set, I love what it sort of has done to the environment. And as a developer, it's cool to be able to see the identities that you've played out for each side really clash in a constructive fashion. So,
right.
I mean, I think it's working out great, and I couldn't be more pleased with the pre-release response.
The other thing that's fun is, I think we like the idea of creating things that create events.
Right.
And when we did, the whole idea behind the pre-release was sort of, it was an experiment. Like, would players go for that?
Right.
And they did. I mean, they did big time, and so that's awesome, which means more things like that.
One of the things that strikes me of decisions you guys make, and the big things that come out, was the full art lands from Zendikar. Mm-hmm. People thought it was so awesome. Well, and it was so awesome because, we don't get it. So the last time we got it was the Unhinged and Unglued, which you of course, are another big proponent of. We had a question come in of why can't we always have full art land? Explain to us.
Okay, I will tackle this one. So, here's the secret. We're behind the scenes here. We're going to let you in a big secret.
Right, don't tell anybody.
Okay, here's the big secret, which is, we have to not let you have everything you want. We have to hold some of it back so we can give it to you again. We know people like them. We're going to do them again. I mean, it's something that we want to do, but what people seem to miss is if we just did every possible thing you want, then we kind of miss opportunities to give things to you.
And the other thing, too, is just, we want to execute it well. Yes. Right? Like, part of the reasons the Zendikar full art lands were awesome is that we got awesome art for them. They had these, expanded frames that worked well. If you just do that every single time, the execution itself fails, and that's why luxury brands work, right? Like, you can only release X amount of product because you have to uphold the quality of it.
Zach, you joined R&D coming from a competitive background, right? What are your thoughts on the current competitiveness? Like, I mean, you don't get to compete.
Yeah, believe me, I know exactly very keenly that I don't get to compete right now. Now's a phenomenal time to be playing competitive Magic. I mean, I sort of came into here just as the Star City circuit was starting up, and now it seems like there's a massive tournament every single weekend.
Yeah.
I mean, now it's a great time to be playing. Standard seems fun. New Extended seems fun. I still try to play a little bit of Legacy whenever I can because there's some unsanctioned events around here.
Right.
But yeah, now's a great time to be a competitive Magic player.
It's interesting. Your deck was on Wizards. You sort of put out one of the first seeds for Kuldotha Red with your deck on Magic Online. So even though you don't get to compete, you still affect the metagame.
I get to plant my sow the seeds.
Yeah.
No, one of the reasons that we gunsling, right, is to show off some of the cool stuff of the latest Magic sets, right?
Right.
And obviously our decks aren't tuned against the decks in the real world because we don't have the decks of the real world when we're making the cards. But it is cool to be able to show up with something that we're like, oh, this is a neat thing that the latest set enables, and have the real world really grasp hold of that and do something with it. So I get to still stoke my little deck designer fires every once in a while, I guess.
Is there any, like, I was talking with Aaron about the Future League briefly. Mm-hmm. Are there records kept of what decks you guys design?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is there the magic wiki that you guys what I forget what you guys call it, the central brain that you put all your design and development notes into?
Well, I mean, there's the magic wiki, and then there is our database.
Right, your database.
Multiverse is what we call it.
Multiverse.
But those are two separate entities. So.
Like, does Multiverse also keep the deck logs?
I usually do that on the wiki.
Yeah, the wiki is where we keep that.
Oh, okay.
Multiverse is a card database, and we'll keep notes on cards.
Gotcha.
Like, the multiverses we see notes in Tom's article, that's multiverse developer notes.
Right. The multiverse is the card file itself,
right?
Whereas a lot of the meta stuff about Magic design goes onto the wiki.
The wiki,
yes.
Okay.
Right. But there's a database of every FFL deck. So sometimes it's cool to see what we got right, what we didn't exactly get right, and then some of the just crazier ideas. It's like, I wish that had gone right.
One of the questions I asked Aaron was, we hear about the cards that you guys design and obviously become so powerful, Jace and stuff like that. Or can you think of any cards or mechanics that just completely fell flat or didn't live up to your guys' expectations?
There are a couple of them. I mean, like most of our batting average, not too bad.
No, we're in bed. I mean, in Magic's past, there's a lot more examples where we tried to do something and it never quite took off.
Right.
Because when you ask people what their favorite mechanics are, there's a high correlation between power. Meaning, if you say, do you like something, if there were powerful cards, people will like it more.
Right.
And so, obviously, we try to make sure that our mechanics have some poster child for each mechanic. Like, here's the good cards that are that mechanic. And I think we've been getting better. I mean, we've been doing this for a while.
I will say, like,
a little while.
Cards that were, like, really good in the FFL and that were either just, like, okay or not that splashy in the real world. Warren Instigator, obviously, we thought was a format built around. Nissa Ravane has had some real-world success, but like she sculpted a lot of the format around her. And then things that are related to that, like Searing Blaze was created kind of to deal with Nissa in a really sort of lopsided way. I played a lot of Searing Blazes. For a long time, I would have said Step Links and Plated Geodude, which I was putting in like every deck, but Paul Rietzel is keeping the dream alive with those guys.
Well, those guys are definitely getting their work done, yeah.
I remember when I was playing at US Nats last year, I had this mass polymorph deck I was gunslinging with, and I just thought it was the nuts. I thought it was like the best deck ever, and no one was playing in the real world, but I was playing against Brad or somebody that came out gunsling, they're like, what's that deck list? I can't tell you this. I'm not giving you. So they're definitely, most of the time, if the real world gets something and we don't have it, the real world's right. But every once in a while, there's stuff that I think that the real world may ought to have paid a little bit more attention.
It was interesting. I was talking with Matt Tabak at GP Atlanta, and I was like, who does he say no more to? Mark Rosewater or Brian Tinsman?
The reason, by the way, on record, the reason that he says no to Brian Moore is I've learned what to ask and not to ask. So, like, I know when I'm going to get a no. It's like, I don't need to ask. I know I'm going to get a no.
Brian's pushing the boundaries more.
Right.
Brian's much more like, can I do this? And I don't think you can. Come on, can I do that? Timmy came about because I literally did a little monologue where I'm like, here's why we should keep this card. Because there's a little kid out there, I'm going to call him Timmy. And he's going to rip open the pack, and he's going to see that card, and he's going to do a little jig and dance, and we made Timmy very happy. And you know what? We have to make cards for Timmy. That's how Timmy started. And he just defending why a card should exist and naming something.
Right.
And then like one day I'm like, I think there's another player. I'm going to call him Johnny.
So then you had the original three, Melvin and Vorthos, then joined the group. So
they're not very different.
Yeah, they're not psychic graphics. I keep trying to explain this. It's a tricky thing. It's a different... Melvin and Vorthos look at what people like about the game, meaning the aspect of how the game is portrayed to them, which is a different thing about... The psychic graphics are, what is the emotional reason I play? What do I get out of the game emotionally? Do I want people to recognize me? Do I want people to... Am I proving something to people? It's very about internal emotional things.
Right.
Vorthos and Melvin are about what you appreciate and how you appreciate the game. That's a different thing. It's important. I'm glad we have the terms. We use the terms, but they're not the same thing. Do
you guys classify members of the pit and the R&D? Like, do you guys say, okay, well, no, you're a Johnny, so this is why you feel that way? Or
I mean, it's not spoken as exact, but we know. For example, when someone makes a card, you can tell a lot of times who made the card because certain people in R&D just like certain kinds of cards.
Right.
And it's a running joke. Like the things I like. I'm big on doubling effects and token making and just things that I like to do, like flickering. That's one of that I constantly do. And so like people know the kind of stuff that you gravitate toward, and we try to get a good mix in R&D so that all different kinds of things are there. And we have to be most careful where we know we're short.
Right. Like, there's a ton of overlap. Like, I do a lot of stuff. One of them is I take writing very seriously. I take acting very seriously. And the thing that, like, you come up with an R&D again and again, is you have to really have empathy for a type of player that is not necessarily who you are. Right? Like, I love casting Remand and Cryptic Command more than basically anything else on Earth. But, like, you just cannot design for that person. Right? And a lot of the time it's really difficult to, not difficult, but it's very useful to put your head in a place where you're just not that part of you.
Right.
You know, where you are just like, I want to storm down Timmy animals until the sun sets. You know, and that's a really useful tool as designers that we have to use, is to get a little bit of Timmy, Johnny, and Spike into ourselves and figure out what those players want.
Yeah, I mean, here's a good example, is coin flipping.
Right.
There's really nobody in the pit who loves coin flipping, but that represents a very specific style of player.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And that there are people who embrace randomness, and that the fun of the game for them is they're I'm on an adventure. I don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
What's going to happen? And we've had a lot of discussions about making coin flipping cards. You know what I'm saying? And that a classic example was we made a card in which you flipped a coin, and either way you got something that was fair. And I was like, but is that what a coin flipper wants?
Right.
Two fair things? No, what they want is something really awesome and something not so awesome, because the fun of flipping the coin is maybe I get awesome, but I don't know, maybe I won't.
Yep.
And that the kind of guy that wants a choice between two fair things, well, don't flip a coin. Let them choose.
That's
a different kind of player. And that it's important to understand what people want, because if you mix and match things in the wrong way, you make a card in which neither person gets what they want. Because the coin flipping guy, it isn't his card, and the guy who likes options, it isn't his card, and then you made a card for nobody.
Right.
And a lot of time we'll be on a set, right? Be talking about this card, and you have to, why is this card in the set? And the answer is because it's not for you.
Yes.
Right? This comes up a lot. It's you have to understand when, even though you don't find anything really that appealing about a Magic card, it is hitting a different audience. And you have to be okay with that. Because, I don't want to release the set that is, 200 cards for Zach Hill.
Set.
So one of the things we do here is a lot of people play Magic or work at the company, other than R&D. And so we have what we call rare polls, where if we want to see what the average person thinks about our cards, we will send out to everybody in the company who plays Magic, and they can give us their opinion. So some things do well in the rare poll and some don't. And we have to understand this. One of my ongoing things is I'm a big Johnny. I love the Johnny enchantment, the rare enchantment.
Yeah.
It does weird things, and who knows what you do with it, but it's just weird. And those always poll horribly, because if you're not the kind of player that enjoys going, what the hell did I do with this? That seems dumb, and you don't like it.
Right.
But there's a group that really likes those kind of things, and I'm constantly fighting for those, because I know that I'm part of that group, but there's the players out there that are give me something strange. I want to do something fun with it, and I love the fact that I open it and look at it and go, I don't know what to do with that. That's exciting to a lot of players, and not exciting to everybody, but we want to make sure that each little group has cards for them.
Right.
And one thing that I often say is, the secret of Magic, it isn't really one game.
Right.
Really what we are doing is we're making 40 games, and we're putting it all under one banner.
Right.
It's called Magic. But really, there's tons of ways to play Magic, and that's awesome. That's great. In fact, I think the livelihood and longevity of Magic is due to, it's not one game, it's mini games. And even if you're playing one little sliver of it, that little sliver keeps changing.
Right.
So even that game keeps being different games. But we have to deliver. We're making 40 games every set, and we have to make sure all 40 games are in the package.